Depends on what the company wants for a goal. There's a lot of products out there that they need content, they want promotion, and they want somebody to support it. But it's like you have to consider it almost like a part-time job.
Drip and Drift.
Welcome to the Drip and Drift podcast. Today's guest is into a bunch of motorsports, drifting, motorcycles, go-karts. Amber, thanks for joining us today.
Excited to be here.
Yeah. So, speaking on all those real quick, do you still have the bike?
No,
you got rid of the bike?
Yeah, I got rid of
too? Dang.
Yeah, that's what happens with drifting. I got rid of everything. Everything.
To focus on drifting.
For drifting.
Yeah,
but
that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
it's worth it, maybe. Yeah.
We talked about the R33, which we'll get into in a bit, but just how drifting all start for you? Like, was it always something you were kind of looking at, or how did it end up you getting into it?
Yeah, I was always been a fan of drifting. Everywhere I've lived, there wasn't really a drift track nearby, so it was more something I would watch on videos. When my son was born, I actually decorated his whole room with drifting. Like, his first birthday cake was drift cars. Nice. It was a funny conversation at Walmart. Like, yeah, I want the cars, but then I want drifting cars.
Yeah.
So they were like, But I had him watching videos. But when I moved to Orlando, it was just an exciting opportunity to find out, like, there's a whole drift culture here. And so, yeah, I just started spectating, asking questions, and I had an opportunity to kind of practice in a borrowed car, and I got my own car last year.
Nice. So, so that borrowed car was with Anubis, right?
Yeah.
And how did that was it literal borrowing, or was it like a rental thing, or how did that exactly work out? Or whatever. Yeah,
so just, in a short explanation, Steve, he's had, that car for a really long time. There's been a lot of people driving the car. I just happened to be standing there. Steven Toscanero was working on it, and somebody mentioned something about, like a race program he was looking into, which was like a small drag car for kids. And somebody's like, she has a kid that is of that age. And he's like, oh, that might be of interest. So we actually were initially talking about a new race program he wanted to do. And then he's like, well, why were you at the drift track? And I was like, well, I just think it's really cool. And he's like, would you like to come out to a learner's day? And of course, that would be great. And so I went out there and I learned on learner's day. And he's like, why don't you just keep coming out? Like, you seem really, excited about it. And, you don't really get discouraged. And so I was just like, sure. So I was just driving, and so we just kept going about that, and it was just a great opportunity to learn. Yeah. I didn't have like any coaching really, so it was just kind of like go out there, and it was just like throttle over, So the environment of learning was kind of bland, but I was still wanting to like advance, and it's also awkward when it's not your car. And, there was little things that, and whenever I'd have the opportunity to run over there and like help work on something, like I helped change out fuel pump and other things, but a lot of it was kind of like his car.
Don't touch it.
So
like, you can drive it, but don't do anything else.
Yeah, so it's a lot of things, and it's his car, I respect it.
Yeah.
There were other opportunities where people wanted to drive it, so then they would drive it. So at some point, it's like I want to get my own car, and focus on, growing. So I found the E36 and drove all the way down to Fort Myers, and it was in a lot worse shape than I anticipated.
True.
So,
90s car, like that's gonna.
Yeah.
Nowadays, that's so crazy to say, like, because for so many years, like, you could get 90s cars cheap, but like they were still decent and nice. And now I feel like unless they're like fully done up, like redone, a lot of junk, and it's sad.
Yeah.
I hate to say that, but yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know what chassis to go with. My husband Echo, he is a really big BMW guy. So wasn't trying to follow in the bandwagon of a trending E36, but that was what he really loved. He's like big E30 guy. Yeah. Obviously, those are harder to find.
For sure.
So he was kind of one that pushed me in to get the E36. Cool. So it was, for me, it was interesting going from a Z which had, a lot of mods on it. Had WiseFab the last time I drove it.
Okay. And that was your first attempt at driving it. Was it stock engine-wise?
No, I had an LS.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I had an LS.
Oh, dang.
So that's what I'm saying, like, power over. It had a hydro, but they're like, don't touch the hydro. So I was just like, you know.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of like plateauing at one point of just driving. And I'm like, I want to do more. So I have my own car. I'm like, I can do whatever I want with it. So things always escalate with the drift cars. They're always like, start out simple.
Yeah.
And don't.
Yeah, that's what everyone, like, the biggest advice is, like, which, like, I didn't really follow because the car I bought, like, had angle kit and, like, some stuff already done to it. But, like, yeah, everyone's always like, start with the stock car. And then once you got that down, put some things on it and keep building it. And now you're putting a turbo on.
Yeah, and I'm just like totally going another way. But it's like there was a girl that posted on one of the OSW forums just asking about drifting. So I had her come out to a private day. And everything's just new to her. Like, she got her first ride along ever. Cool. She doesn't even know what car she wants yet. She's just, like, never been involved in this. And again,
but you got her hooked with the ride along.
Yeah. So she rode with Harlem, which was a great, experience. And same thing. It's like what you tell everybody, like, just get something simple, you know. I suggested maybe a Z or something because the Zs and the G, they all have like a decent power.
Yeah.
And they seem to hold a lot of abuse. Like even the door tappers, they run those cars and they seem to be running one.
Yeah, for real.
But
yeah, I never liked the Z, like the look of them, but I love it now, and I advise it to anybody because it is that C-time car. It's not going to break too much on you. You could beat on it. Like, of course, there's routine maintenance and things break, but like I don't have to add any the future money that I'm saving up to put into it are not for power. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, so it still has that longevity for me for a little bit to catch up to the power that it's at. So then add some power. But the E36, because aren't those all right drifting, like stock power, or not too much?
I would say they're really low power. Like, I had mine on the dyno as rated like 187, which I think is a little low for. I think they're supposed to be closer to 200, but they are lower than like the Zs and stuff in power. But the feeling of the E36, which, I mean, I'm sure every setup's different, but they feel so snappy. They love to stay straight. So when you're in a very tight, course, it's so much fun because you're just aggressively throwing that car around and it wants to snap straight. Whereas the Z, I always felt like it just kind of sways and it's a little bit more slower on transition. So it's just a different feel.
Yeah, and, I could see that. And I wonder about the wheel length. I wonder if it's short. I'm sure it's shorter than the Z, but I'm not sure.
I'm not sure 100%.
Either. Dang, well, you like it so far, though?
Yeah, I like it. I'm really happy the Echo talked me into that chassis.
Yeah.
The car, and a lot of people I've talked to that have had E36s, they maybe had better luck on, like, the overall maintenance. Mine was, like, totally neglected.
Yeah.
So, but chasing a lot of problems. And then I didn't even, like, I was so excited to get it out on the track. I didn't even have time to do an alignment. I just drove it out there. And apparently, like, the alignment was, like, full side. But fuel pump went out on the first run. Then I had issues with injectors. And then the wiring. They messed with the wiring and everything. So I had all that redone. And the suspension was completely dead. Like, completely, the car was just like on the ground. So we were trying to overlap on time of completion. So we were taking it to the vinyl shop and we were having to like jack up the car so it would clear, like getting it on the trailer and getting it into vinyl.
Yeah.
And then getting it, I drove it all the way down to Silver Suspension where we did the install. And then I've like never, like, that was my first time driving the car and they wanted me to drift in this tiny little parking lot with like nice customer cars around. I was like, I haven't driven this car yet, but it felt so great. Like,
Yeah.
I'm really happy with the silver suspension.
Good. I've never tried those before, but
Yeah.
right now I got BCs on there, and that one of those mods that was already on the car when I bought it, fortunately.
Yeah.
But we'll see when those go out. I don't know how long they were on the car when I got it, and I don't know how long they will be on the car, but we'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hear good things about silvers.
Yeah. And over time, like, every time I've been running the car, like, we'll make different adjustments, and it's fascinating how just little tweaking of, you know, the suspension and angle and everything, how much the car, like, feels a little bit different.
Yeah.
I was running the 391 diff, and then I recently switched to the 293 and prepped for the turbo. But I went ahead and, like, drove it at Sebring with that diff, and everybody's like, "Why are you running that diff with the stock power?" I'm like, "I just want to see how it'll do on the."
Just want to drive. Shut up. Let me drive.
So, but yeah, I just have to do a lot faster speed commitment. But,
yeah.
But yeah, I just like testing out different things, see how the car feels.
You think you're ready for that? Like, how much power is that gonna? You guys have a plan for?
My plan, I want to be. Well, I got to start somewhere and see how it is, but maybe like 400 horsepower.
Okay.
You know, 350, 400 is usually the sweet spot of not destroying the engine.
Yeah.
I'm going to be running stock internals. I'm going to do a different head gasket and studs. It's going to take the head to the machine shop. I work with King's Performance on a lot of the components, so they're big support. So big shout out to King's Performance on that.
Yeah.
But they're really great. And
right down the street.
I know, and they're so supportive of women drivers, and I always say that it's kind of like a safe place to be and ask questions and not feel intimidated, because, you know, as women in the car scene, we still get that sometimes.
Yeah, I never think about that being a guy. Like, sorry, but like, yeah, it must be like stepping in. I guess it was the same thing for like skateboarding when I skateboarded. Like a few girls that were good, like better than some of the guys that still, like, a lot of people talk trash on because like it was a guy's thing. But I don't know. I like spreading positivity, period. So
I'm the same way.
Like, as long as you ever hurt me or like my people, like, I have nothing bad to say about you, type of thing.
There's always trash talking in any sport and any circle, and there's always opinions, and
for sure, which is good too. Like, I lead the opinions. I think I think it's good to express certain things, but yeah, some people take it too far. Just say something, not even for an opinion, but just to hate, and that's kind of tough.
I like seeing the different perspectives that people take on drifting. You know, I mean, not only just people have different goals. People want to go into competitions. People want to go into, and there's a lot of people that are getting into more of the show car level of drifting, where they're really making it clean, whether it's with a livery or just a nice paint job, body kit. Other people just want whatever to drive. But, you know, everybody has different expectations of what a drifter should know or do. In this culture, like we talked earlier, like, a lot of people have expectations that you have to be a mechanic and you have to know everything, and you have to know everything about your car. Otherwise, shame on you. And you know, and it's are you
a real drifter?
And it's like, we all love the sport, we all love to drive, but we all have different resources, and we all come from different backgrounds, and we all have different time in our day. And I know a lot of people who literally, they don't care, they just want to drive the car. They will pay for all the maintenance, and they'll show up and they'll drive. And a lot of people gives them a lot of opinions. And then there's some people that want to learn, but they don't have the time or the resources. And I grew up without YouTube. I didn't have YouTube back in the day. So, you know, I used to hang out at a shop and try to ask questions, but I was always working. From the time of 14, I was always working multiple jobs. I'm always trying to hustle, like, more of the funding to the car. But, you know, even now, like, especially with the family, like, I come home, I'm rushing to cook dinner, and then trying to dive into what are we doing with the car. All throughout the day, I'm, like, focusing on, okay, we got to get this part, we got to get this part, you know, like, running things. So it's constant chaos, but I want to be as involved with the car and the build as possible. I want to know the specs and the parts, and I want to understand it. And I think that's important.
Yeah, I think that that's good on your part for wanting to do that for sure. Because it's tough because I don't necessarily want to work on my stuff, but I have to.
Yeah.
And like, it's not even, maybe I wouldn't have to, but I just wouldn't be able to spend more money on tires to go drifting, or if I were every little fix, send it to somebody. But it has taught me a lot of patience and like how to do things myself. Like, I think that's an important skill to like figure out problems on your own. Like, whether that means figure out to take it to somebody or figure out how to do it on your own. I think figuring problem solving is, I think, super important skill to have for sure.
Patience is much needed with drifting.
Yeah.
And that whole like drive, brake, and fix, repeat.
Yeah. And I mean, especially, I feel like maybe with every industry, but like you see like every weekend, either a private day or an event happening that like somebody's posting drifting. Like, at least for, obviously that's all I look at and watch and follow, but like somebody's always driving and drifting. And like, I've been on a big break because I went on a family trip over the summer that I knew was going to cost a lot. And so like, I haven't, now trying to think, the last time I drove maybe was like April or March or something like that. And my next event that I'm planning for is October. So like, this is the longest time I've gone since I broke the car a couple of years ago when it was down for 6 months. I usually go once a month. So that break, like, it's been tough for me, like in the middle of it, but I know it was a once in a lifetime opportunity that I got to go on this trip. So it was something, that I made for my own life. That it wasn't like just for drifting and fun.
I know. Sometimes it gets consuming.
Yeah.
Like, this past year's been a wild run with that car, and it's been more places than I ever imagined. And so it's been interesting. But I've met some really cool people along the way, and I'm always excited to learn about people's background and, learn from them.
Yeah.
Because everybody has something that you can learn from them. And I think it's amazing once you build those connections, like where that could lead you next.
For sure.
Yeah.
And that's building the E36 is a reason to move on from the R33. Was that?
Yeah, I mean, ever since I got this car, the R33 sat on jack stands for like a long time because I was in the process of doing a manual swap. And then once we finally got that done, it was like every weekend, it's like I'm either driving the track or I'm going to an event, or it's like I'm constantly having, because the E36 it's kind of like a promotional platform for companies to have an opportunity to broadcast their products and me to support and representation of that. Or I'm doing like speaking points, like I'll do panelist Women with STEM presentations. And so there's always different stuff going on and getting involved with, like, I love visiting with the schools, and we kind of pull different components of the car into their educational program. And so it just kind of consuming of my time. And I'm like, the Skyline, I've had it for years, and it's been something that I thought I would keep forever.
Yeah.
But it's like, I need to focus on one project at a time, because now that it's drivable with the manual swap, it's like, but I want to do this to it now, and I want to do this to it. It's like, I need to focus on one thing. So I spent a lot of time thinking about it, and then I was like, I just need to let it move on to an owner. And then I was like, I need somebody that'll treat it the way I wanted it to be treated. Yeah. So I found
gotta vet people and background checks.
There's a young guy up in Ocala that bought it. Nice. So he's taking it to shows, and then somebody sent me some pictures. It was at a shop. He was getting the brakes changed on it, so he's taking care of it. Cool. So I'm glad.
Yeah, something you mentioned, like did you call it an exhibition car, the E36? Is that what you said, or like a show car, or like how'd you describe it?
The E36 is kind of, because of the partnerships I have, it is a promotional product.
Promotional, yeah. Because I feel like outside looking in, it's like you got this car, and then the cage, the wrap, like now the turbo, and it's like part of me didn't think about like that promotion and that partnership that you have with those companies of like, they don't want, a ratty E36 in their booth, right? Like they want something that is presentable that they can also show off too, right?
Yeah.
So now I kind of see why putting so much into all of that now.
Yeah. And there's a lot to be said with working with companies and partnerships, and a lot of people who haven't gotten involved in it. There's maybe some misunderstandings of what all that is, and then we're also talking like grassroots compared to like pro driving.
Yeah.
There's completely different conversations on that, but there's companies of all kinds that want to support you, whether you are because you're a female driver or because you are just constant and disciplined on driving. They want somebody who's just consistent. Depends on what the company wants for a goal. But there's a lot of products out there that they need content, they want promotion, they want somebody to support it.
Mm-hmm.
And but it's like you have to consider it almost like a part-time job. You have to be like constant, and your car has to be constant, like be running, going to events, going to shows. There's a lot of shows I go to. I'll get there early in the morning. I'll be there all day, and you're interacting with people. You're doing basically marketing and sales all day. You're looking for new leads for them. So, and you're dedicating all your time for that. Maybe just for a small discount on a product that supports you in what you love to do. So it's always, you're going to put in way more than they're ever going to offer you. So it's a lot more dedication. But I work in sales and marketing full time. So to me, it's just
part of the business,
part of my business all the time. So, but it's like no pressure to be involved in that. Like some people want to put in the commitments, some people don't. Some people maybe just want to work with one particular company because they're really motivated to use their product. It's like, I love your product. I bought this. Like I would love to maybe work on some promotions with, this product I really need and have a conversation with that. So there's always an opportunity, but then always know that you really have to stay committed and work for it. I've been doing it for several years, and and sometimes things can lead to a bigger growth, and other times it can just be maybe just a year commitment. So it turns into like politics at some point. Because if you're working with a lot of companies, if they don't play nice with these companies, then you have to make tough decisions on, I'm going to commit to these.
Interesting.
And it's a long-term loyalty as well. So. But
dang,
it's interesting.
Blood in, blood out. You're in for life. No, but I get why it should be a long-term like commitment and partnership. Like you guys are building something together. There's trust with both sides. So
but I find a lot of drivers who are growing and they need a part, and then I see a company who is like, we have this part that we're putting in production and we need somebody to use it and promote it, and I try to bridge those connections. So it's like it's kind of helping each other, and then kind of guide them on like, okay, let's have conversations of what are the mutual expectations for that. But
I think that's something that a lot of people, like drivers, don't necessarily understand, but like it's like, oh, write a letter to a company, tell them how many followers I have, and I post every day, and then they'll give me stuff. And like it's not as simple as that. Like like you said, there's a lot of work that goes into it. And,
it's not just sitting pretty next to a product, and it's not. A lot of people have expectations that they're going to get stuff for free. It's not always like that. It's always like a small discount on maybe, sometimes they'll even allocate it to just a couple items, like up to 10 items you can get at this percentage off. And then based on your commitments and maybe what they get for ROI, which is just the return on their investment for you, they might increase that next year. So then it really puts you on a hustle. So you literally become like a salesperson for them. And so But it's like you don't have to commit to these things. But it's if you like doing sales and marketing, it just kind of becomes something that, you know, you enjoy doing. And
I feel like you can consult people on this because like I said, not many people come from that background, or drivers do, and you obviously do. So I think that could be beneficial for some people. Like,
yeah, but I mean, it's like, I don't know what I'm doing. We're all learning, you know. It's just you try, you fail. Like I just I'm always excited to connect those dots. Networking and finding is the same thing with my job all day, every day. It's people have a service, people have a quality. You bring those together, and they help each other, and it grows the business, grows each other. And I love connecting those dots. I love helping the community grow. And we're all on the same page that we want drifting to grow, and we want people to be inspired, especially people outside of our circle that haven't really thought much about drifting, especially being in the healthcare industry. A lot of people aren't into drifting, so I'm always bringing that up in conversation.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this patient, but hold on a second. Let's talk about cars for a minute. And but there's a lot of doctors that are into cars, and I'm like, if I could just convince more people to get into drifting and buy a drift car, I want it to be a big sport, bigger than what it is now. I want us to have more tracks. We need people to invest in some bigger tracks around here.
Agreed.
But I just want to drive. At the end of the day, I just want to drive.
Yeah, I feel that. Same. Man, so you've been at quite a bit of tracks. You went out to Puerto Rico to drive?
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
That was like a whole tumbling of happenings that it was in a crazy timeline.
Yeah. So I'm sure everywhere has a drift scene, but yeah, I was surprised when I saw you were going to that event. So how was it? What's it like? Is there a big scene? Like, well,
yeah, there's a pretty big scene there. And it was my first time going to Puerto Rico. Ironically, the week before, Cosmo Tires just signed with Centeno Tire, which is a big tire shop down there.
Okay.
So now they're going to be, selling Cosmo Tires down there, and they didn't have a driver representing them, and I was like, we got to get somebody down there, and the one driver, he just moved there, and he's pretty well known there. His name is Sato. And so he came out. I was surprised he let me drive his car. So there was a whole lot there. And I was driving his E46 around. And so I got him and the owner of Centeno talking. And then I was talking to Cosmo Tires about him. And then he got a whole Cosmo rap. And because of his representation and his girlfriend, not sure if they're married, she does really good media content. So they're just like a team. Cool. And they got Centeno Tire all hyped about drifting, and he wanted to fully invest at the track. So then the following time we went there, he went all out. It was like a small track, but it was so much fun. It was a skid pad, just like OSW. Imagine that vibe. They also had the drag strip right next to it too. So at the end of the drag strip, they were doing practice runs. So it was kind of that same OSW feel.
Yeah.
But everybody was just so enthusiastic on another level than even here.
Yeah.
Which just got me excited. But Centeno Tire, they had a tire changer. They had this huge tow rig, and they had a huge AC canopy with full bar food. I was like, what is this?
Cool.
But he was all excited about it, and they're going to continue to do that the rest of the year. And Basato's car looks so nice. They did a really good job. Nice. And he street drives it. So he's driving all over in Puerto Rico. And, but yeah, he's having a blast. He's a really cool guy. And, but yeah.
Dang. Yeah, that's interesting.
So I've learned so much about the drift culture down there.
Yeah, because I know before we were talking about in the DR, Brian, he was telling me their scene's growing a lot.
Yeah.
And, I'm hype on Latino drifting and my getting my Latino brothers and sisters out there drifting in cars, that makes me hype for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dang. That'd be wild to travel drifting. I still haven't gone out of Florida to drift, really, yeah. So let me step out of Florida first. But yeah,
Yeah.
you would say Mid Pond's your favorite
Yeah,
so far.
I would. It's
Yeah.
it was raining pretty good, so I don't know if you saw in one of the reels I posted.
Yeah,
The car
all the
was
mud.
like, I still have mud
Yeah.
all over. I can't get to the back window to clean it. I went to a car show with my back window muddy.
Nice. It adds character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was funny though, because in the driver's meeting, Ken, because like Willie and me, like we have like liveries and stuff. He's like, "Oh, you guys with your liveries, you go out there first." He was giving us some goof on it, but yeah, it's funny.
Dang. So, I know you're still building the car, but is there any expectation when you're going to get it finished? Are there any plans coming up? Any events that you have to get it done by or anything?
Yeah, I wanted to. So I drive a lot of the Clean Culture events, and there's quite a few coming up. But the car is kind of setting the standard of that timeline. I've had some issues with, I think it's just a fuel injector clogging on me. It's happened a couple times. So I was going to go to a private day last weekend. They were doing like a supercar, like sponsored event. But so I think I'm just going to start working on it now. I have pretty much everything. I just put on order all the fittings that I need. I'm working with Threadstone Performance on that. And so yeah, I think there's only some other stuff I need to get still. Like I need to replace the radiator with something a little bit better performance and some fans. I just bought a radiator fan, but I think I need to get something better. But yeah, and then I found out they put the reinforcement plates, whoever owned the car before, because they said they reinforced it, which is like a cost that I'm factoring in. Oh, I don't have to do.
Yeah.
Come to find out, they're like there, but they're kind of tack welded. They're not like completely reinforced.
For sure.
So the time, like, okay, well, we need to drop the tank, see what's going on in there, maybe clean it out. So when we do that, then we'll actually do the reinforcement. So doing that and then taking the head to the machine shop, which might be a week or two.
Yeah.
I feel like once we're getting into it, there's going to be other little parts that we're going to like
Always.
this. So hopefully within a few weeks, I want to get it done. I don't want to rush it, but I don't want it down forever.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Hopefully within a month or less, I'd like to get it done.
Nice.
Yeah.
And what do you want to do for the future? Like, you trying to go into competition stuff, or like what do you see yourself in this whole drifting world?
Like where I'm at now, I never thought I would be even here now.
Yeah.
So every opportunity, even the car, I appreciate everything, and I've had to work and sacrifice a lot even just to have this. And I'm like thinking I would love to experience doing competitions, but I don't want to rush myself into it.
Yeah.
There's still a lot that I have to figure out with the car. Once we do the turbo build and dialing in with the car, it's going to be a different setup completely.
Oh, yeah.
I've never drifted a turbo car before, but there's also a lot of money to invest in competing. That's like another level, but I would like to try. I'm just kind of going with the flow.
Yeah, and taking your time with it.
Yeah.
Just enjoying the process.
Yeah. I'm spending so much money as it is just building the thing.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, I've fallen down a rabbit hole with the car. But I love it. I'm learning so much about it.
Yeah.
But it makes me feel confident. You know, my biggest fear is all these cars that keep catching on fire. So really wanting to make sure, you know, trying to prevent that as much as possible.
Yeah.
Like the wiring was kind of sketchy before.
True.
You would hit the brake and the headlights would come on or something.
Nice.
Like, what's going on? But
that's funny. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Dang. All right. Is there anything you want to add or touch on before we close it out?
I just, it's nice to finally chat with you.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm always open to talk to anybody. You know, anybody at the track that wants to come up and chat. I want to learn from more people. I want to, you know, grow more as a driver. And there's a lot of people that, you know, want to learn to drift. And, you know, I don't know everything, but if there's anything I can do to support, I'm always here.
Cool.
And so, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah,
If you like this episode, drop a thumbs up, leave a comment below, and we'll catch you next time, fam. Peace.